and you learn all the rules. And one of the rules is you don't get discharged without going down in a wheelchair. So the student nurse is on her second day, and she goes in this room, and this guy's sitting on the side of the bed, and he's got his suitcase all packed, and she said, "Come on, get in." And he said, "No, I can walk down." She said, "Sir, rules are rules. You have to get in the wheelchair." So he gets in the wheelchair, and she was wheeling him downstairs. She gets just going out the elevator at the main level, and she says, "So is your wife going to meet us out at the front?" And he said, "No, she's probably upstairs still changing out of her gown." All you nurses understand that. You get that. I want to talk to you the next 4 weeks about things I love, things that I think God loves. There's a whole lot of things we love. Today I want to talk about how much I love the church. And I know right away there are some here who may not have had a church background. I've been in the church since I was 5 days old. Don't know what it's like to be anywhere else on Sunday morning. But for some of you don't have fond memories of church. You may not even like church anymore. Somebody invited you or drug you here, or you've been coming for a while trying to check this out. We got a little echo going somewhere. Maybe it's just in my head because there's nothing up there to. Is that mic? Can we turn the other mic off?
Try it now.
We're good. We're good. Thank you. I get it. I understand if you're a little skeptical about church. But I want you to know when I say I love the church, I really mean it. Because God has used the church to change my life. It was at the church that I found out about a God who loved me. It was at a church that I learned about a Savior who would die for me. It was at a church that I decided to say yes to Jesus. When I was 5, my parents helped start a church in the west end of the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. We met, of all things, in an American Legion Hall. I can identify, Earl, with what you shared last week on the video. We had to empty the beer bottles and the alcohol bottles out and kind of sanitize it a bit so we could have church. It was in that setting, even in American Legion Hall, that I gave my life to Christ and was baptized in a nearby church at the age of 10. It was in the church that I learned to pray to God, to a God who listened. It was in the church that I saw volunteers leading Sunday school classes and youth groups. It was at the church when I was 18 I preached my first sermon. I think it was maybe 7 or 8 minutes long. You're probably saying, "Bob, bring back the good old days." Not going to happen. It was in the church I learned and am still learning what it means to be a Christ-like man, a Christ-like husband, a Christ-like dad and granddad. Brenda and I were married in our church. We raised our son in the church. Our closest friends and allies are in the church. Over the years, we have dealt with excruciating pain and hurt, but it was the church that lifted us up in prayers and support. Honestly, there's no way in my mind that we could have gone through the health crises that I faced earlier this year without you. For over 6 decades, God has used the Church of Jesus Christ to change my life. I'm not saying I haven't been hurt by the church, because I have been deeply hurt at times.
But it was not the church, it was a few people in the church. I've come to realize it wasn't intentional. They just had a different idea. And in church, I've learned to forgive and apologize and to ask for forgiveness for my own sins. You see, my life has revolved around the church for 7 decades now, not because I'm a pastor, but because I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. God has changed my life through this church, through that church. I'm sure we could pass the microphone around and many of you would have stories about your time in the church. Not because the church is perfect, but because an imperfect church continues to change lives. Let me be specific. I love this church. Even though I wasn't raised brethren, you took me in. You've embraced me. You've welcomed me. For 8 years, we've done ministry together. It's not changing. I'm not going anywhere, folks. This IV excluded. I'm still not going anywhere. Many people that I have encountered have called the church boring. Church services were too long, sermons were not relevant or moving, relationships were shallow and not authentic. For some of you, church was something to be tolerated. But when I look at the teachings in the New Testament, I think the church should not be tolerated, it should be celebrated. Not only should it be the most exciting gathering of one day in our week, it should be a movement that impacts lives and families and neighborhoods and the schools and our world outside of these 4 walls in southwest Kansas. But I love the church because of its power and its potential. One of the reasons I love the church, and this is my main focus today, and it's the first point of the outline. Here's the reason the church exists. The church exists for the one who is not here yet. The church exists for the one who is not here yet. For a few moments, I'd like to apply and unpack a wonderful parable that Jesus tells in Luke 14. It gives us an amazing insight into what kinds of people are invited into his church. When Jesus tells this parable, he's having lunch at the home of a religious leader. And let's begin. I'm going to pick it up, Luke 14, beginning in verse 16 and 17. Jesus replied, "A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited, 'Come, for everything is now ready.'" Jesus is saying that God has prepared a great feast. And it continues on in 18 to 20. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, "I have just bought a field and I must go and see it. Please excuse me." Another said, "I have just bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me." Still another said, "I got married so I can't come." And another one said, "It's too cold outside." No, that's not in there. Or, "I'm too tired. I had a long week at work." Some people didn't come to the banquet. And they made excuses just like many of us or people in our world today do. But then look at verse 21. The servant came back and reported this to his master. Then the owner of the house became angry, and he ordered his servant, "Go out quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, the lame." Did you notice that phrase? Go out quickly. And he's to bring in the people that are the complete opposite of what you would think would be invited to a great banquet. He's inviting the poor and the crippled and the blind and the lame. That's why I say the Church of Jesus Christ exists for the one who is not here yet. Jesus built his church for the forgotten one, the one struggling, the one who thinks they don't belong. In Jesus' church, it's messy people and forgotten people and broken people and marginalized people and the poor and the crippled and the lame and the blind. The excluded are all invited. I love that phrase. Go into the streets and alleys and towns and bring them in. Because there is always room for one more. There's always room for one more. Friends, the good news of the gospel is that no matter what you have done, no matter who you are, no matter how messy your past has been, no matter how bleak things look in your life, there is still room for one more in God's family. Some of you are probably wondering, what's this chair out here, Bob? It's for that one person who isn't here yet, who doesn't know yet that God loves them and wants them in this chair. I don't know who it is, but God does. It is for that struggling person, for that hurting person, for that person going through a messy divorce or going through relationship issues or whatever it might be. There's a chair for them right there. This is the heartbeat of the mission of the church. I want you to look for a moment at Luke 19:10. This is the reason Christ came to the earth in the first place. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Can we put that up on the screen, please? There it is, thank you. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Churches have been notorious about forgetting why they exist, because they've forgotten that it's for the one who isn't here yet, because we like to close ourselves in with our holy huddles. I walked into IHOP some time ago. You know what IHOP stands for? What does it stand for? International House of what? Pancakes. When you walk into the International House of Pancakes, you expect pancakes. Guess what the special was that day? It wasn't banana walnut pancakes. It wasn't pumpkin pancakes. It wasn't Swedish pancakes. No, the special that day was hot and spicy enchilada plate. Now, as much as I love enchiladas, they don't always love me back, but as much as I love them, they've forgotten their purpose. This is not the International House of Enchiladas. And you know, many churches have forgotten the purpose, the main reason that Jesus came was to seek people, save them. The reason we keep emphasizing speaking to your friends and neighbors is because we believe Jesus came for messy, stressed out people who feel hopeless. But we must remind them there is always room for one more, and we have a seat for them. All right, 2 observations. First one is, there are very few churches that are 120 years old who believe their best days are ahead of them, not behind of them. I asked you that question the very first week I came, 7.5 years ago. It all determines the future of our church, whether we think our best days are behind us. Most of those churches are declining. At least that's what the history books tell us. They've had a few decades of substantial ministry, but somewhere along the line, they've forgotten what it's all about. The church sorts of veers off course and turns inward as they decline. It's something that if it doesn't change, it will die. It happens all the time. The latest statistics are, you ready for this? They expect 10,000 churches in America to close in 2025. They'll sing their last song. They'll pray their last prayer. It could have happened to us because there were moments of decline. But we have prayed fervently and followed the lead of our Savior. And we've experienced some growth every year. Not a lot, but some growth every year. That's why I love my church, because we want to not close our doors. We want to not become a stagnant church. I thank you for loving the one who isn't here yet. I thank you for your generosity in reaching that one. Thank you for making it possible to say there is still room for one more, and we have a chair for you. All right, third point, second observation. We are entering a new season, and I want to challenge you to stretch. You know what this is? This is an official True Value bungee cord. They're not very useful unless they're stretched. To reach our full potential in life, we have to stretch. When you stop stretching a bungee cord, what happens? It goes back to its original size, 12 inches long. It is most comfortable when it is not stretched, but it is most useful when it is stretched. And as followers of Jesus, we have to be stretched from time to time. I have to be stretched from time to time. Now let's go back to the parable one more time and see it through different eyes. Yes, the master invited many guests. Yes, he told his servants, go out into the streets and the alleys and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. But here is what I love. I love that the story is not over. It's about a master who cared about every single empty seat. Look at verse 22 and 23. Sir, the servant said, what you ordered has been done, but there is still room. Then the master told the servant, go out into the roads and the country lanes and compel them. Notice that word compel. Compel them to come in, so that my house will be full. Yes, the master sees the empty seat and it bothers him. Does the empty seat bother you? He knows there's one more person who belongs in the family. One more person who needs to know they are loved. One more person who has been overlooked, forgotten, who's been written off. And the one person that matters so much to them that he sent his only begotten son, that they would die for him. He would die for them. I've got some young men. Are they about ready? Okay, you're ready. Thank you. Not that the church can't be bigger, but more ones who need to know him can have their lives and eternity better. And a full house is a house full of ones. God's favorite number is 1. Jesus doesn't love crowds. He loves 1. Remember, he tells the story in the very next chapter, Luke 15. He tells about the shepherd who leaves the 99 to go out for the 1. He went out into the roads and the country lanes to compel the one Samaritan woman at the well. He called one tax collector out of a tree and said, "Come down, I want to go to your house today." He touched one leper that no one else would touch. Jesus turned the world upside down by caring for the one who everybody else ignored. They were too broken, too far gone, too different. And brings me to the challenge that I have for you today to stretch. So here's the big question. The big question is, what if each one of us committed to the one? What if each one of us committed to the one? What if instead of hoping someone else might invite somebody, we would take responsibility for inviting one person in 2026? Our neighbor. One neighbor. One coworker. One family member. One person who has been posting about their struggles on social media. I've asked some young men to come. They are going to be bringing you wristbands. I have a wristband on. They're going to bring you one. I'd like you to take a wristband if you would. Come on down the aisle, guys. These bracelets, these wristbands. There's also a Sharpie in every pew, and I know there's one even in the back rows. There's some. I want you to grab a Sharpie. I want you to see what it says on the wristband. It says, "For the one." It says, "For the one." The bracelet that I'm wearing is to remind me about the one person that God has put in my mind to not forget. Jesus came for one. Inside your wristband, it's hard to see because it's emboldened, it's not in black print, but it says, "My one is." What I'd like you to do in these next few minutes, and if you're watching this online, you can come by the office and get your wristband. I want you to write the name. I have a name written on mine. Nobody else is to see it, just between you and God. I want you to write the name of one person. Can you imagine what God could do if we prayerfully asked for one person that He's asked you to pursue with God's love? Maybe it is that coworker who sits a little lonely at lunch, or the neighbor who's going through family struggles. Maybe it is the adult son or daughter who walked away from your faith, but you can see is still searching. What if you committed to loving the one person God intends to have in His family? Not with manipulation, not with pressure, just with genuine love and care. Authentic relationships. Now, the one real cool thing about this bracelet is what that name we write. And you may not come to you right now. It may come later today. I know this is stretching you. Some it's stretching you way out of your comfort zone. But before you leave, I want you to write the name of one person. Just one name. The one person God has been putting on your heart. The one person who needs to know the love and grace and the hope and the purpose of Jesus Christ. Is there someone God has been putting in your heart? Someone who needs to know that they belong somewhere. They might be your one. Don't overthink it. Don't make excuses about why you are not qualified to talk to one. Just write their name. Just leave that on the bracelet as a reminder. Think about it. While you're thinking about it, I want to play a video. I asked a family in our church to tell us why they love the church. So we got that video ready, guys, back there?
We are here with Diane and Max Crockett, who have been in this church for...
I've been here for 66 years. I was born, and my mom and dad had me dedicated here, and I've been here ever since.
And I started attending when I started dating this young lady back in the mid-70s. And we lived away for after we got married here in the church, then we moved away for 5 years, and then so we came back in 1984. I can't remember when I joined the church, but somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Right.
he had transferred his letter probably when we moved back in 84, 85, sometime in there.
Before the interview, we were talking about your mom having her baby shower here.
My baby shower.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, your baby
shower. Yes. My mom and dad started coming here when it was just a little white church out front. And then when they came to town, they had no family. And that was before my sister was born, Beverly. And she was born in 1950, so they would have come probably in 1949. And Herb Doherty worked at the co-op, and he had hired my dad. And they had invited him to come to church with them. And so Mom and Dad came, and they really felt the warmth of the church. And I remember Mom told me on that, whenever I was growing up, she would tell the story that when they came that day, they only had $5 to their name. And they passed the offering plate, and Mom and Dad put that $5 in faith that God would take care of them. And that afternoon, and it was a Sunday afternoon, Dad got a call, and he needed to go unload 3 trucks at the elevator, and each one of those trucks paid him $5. And so they really felt that God was watching over them, and they had a connection here, and people were so warm to them and so caring, and it was a special time. And so anyway, they ended up having 3 more kids, and we were raised here in the church, and it was such a special group. Their faith really meant something, and the family togetherness of the church really meant something. And I will say, this church was hipped long before hip was the thing. When they built this church, they put a stage in. And it was Juanita Kells, Lotus Coulter, and her husband, Speed, and a lot of them had a little band. And so we would get to come in when I was a kid, and they would perform back in the fellowship hall. Oh, and wow. It was a band. And they had the accordion and the guitar and the piano, and oh my gosh, it was so much fun, And we gathered more as a family and grew in ourselves with the Lord. And that was really important. And this family here, it's so warm. They're so warm, they're so caring, they're sincere, and they provide hope when you feel pretty hopeless. And that's a huge thing.
I
So
can
that's why I
attest to
love
that.
my church family.
I can attest to that. Kind of things do you do now in the church?
Well, all through my life, there has been church meals. And everybody, and this started years before you had Golden Corral. But whenever we were kids, we would get to come, and I don't remember if it was a second Sunday. Currently, it's the second Sunday of every month that we have meals here at Carrion Meals. The unity, and I'm a strong believer, whenever you sit down at the table and you break bread with people, there is something connecting about that. And so we try to carry that on in the church. And we've served on the board, and we've been an active part of this church for a long time.
Is there anything current that excites you about our church?
Absolutely. And it's the hope of moving forward and seeing all the blessings that God has in store for us. And, a lot of times people think, well, it's not required I go to church to be saved. And that is, they've got a valid point, but you miss blessing people and being blessed if you don't interact and engage and become part of the wave that comes through. And because we're all here for just a short amount of time. So yeah, I'm excited about what God's going to unfold for this church. It's been, I think, 120 years this congregation's been here. Can you imagine what the next 120 years are going to be? That's exciting.
All right. I mentioned to Max the other day that the video is about 6 minutes long and Diane speaks 5 minutes and 15 seconds of it. He said, that's about normal. She said, that's as it should be. But anyway, thank you, Diane and Max. There are people who love this church. I want you to do one thing this week. I just want you to take one step. Whoever that one person is, send them a text. Invite them to coffee or get a Coke. You don't have to know all the answers because it's just a simple get-together. They just have to know that you care about them, that you care about the one. That's how the gospel spread. One person caring enough to say to that one other person, you matter to God. Jesus didn't die for the masses. He died for the one. He died for you, and now I'm calling on you to live for someone else, for your one, whoever that one is. So in this I Love series, next week I'm going to be talking about I love to serve. And then when we have all the people here to get the Thanksgiving hams and turkeys, I'm going to be talking about I love my neighbor. And then the last week I'm going to talk about I love the next generation. And I'm just putting the young people on advance notice that I'd like to make a little video about why you young people think it's important that we should care about the next generation. Because if we don't care about them, we close our doors. It's that simple, folks. So here's the conclusion. It can't get any simpler than this. This is for every one. I urge you to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone, to go into the highways and byways and compel someone in 2026, maybe before, to come, that they might know there's a chair for them at the table. Let's stand. We're going to sing a great song by Ryan Stevenson.